You know, the sign of a good, relevant sponsor of your podcast is that sponsor and their product come up naturally in the conversation in the podcast, which is what happened today in this episode. We were talking about virtual staging and the differences between when a listing is virtually staged natively through a portal versus when a listing is virtually staged via an agent, and then it's not necessarily obvious on the portal that the listing is virtually staged. Actually, the portal in question that we're talking about that did it right was Scout24, who are clients of our sponsor, PropTex. If you want to hear more about what PropTex does, you can come to Property Portal Watch in Madrid from the 15th to the 17th of October. They're one of the sponsors. You can talk to them, or you can head to PropTex with 2x's.com or hit the guys up on LinkedIn and say that we sent you. Hello and welcome to the PPW Podcast, bringing you news, views and interviews from the world of real estate marketplaces. Joined for today's news roundup by Simon Baker. How are you, Simon?
I am fantastic. We just had a great conversation with Remy from Zephyr. And if anyone's around wanting to hear a fantastic podcast, listen to that one.
Yeah. And Harvey Hancock, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me along.
Yeah, no problem. We were just talking off camera. We're all getting pretty excited actually about Property Portal Watch and who is coming to Property Portal Watch. Simon, I'm just going to hand it over to you for a second and you can just replicate the enthusiasm and say some of the names that you were just telling me a minute ago off camera.
Okay, this is going to be a cracker of a conference. We're about 20% ahead of registrations compared to last year. So we've actually capped it to 400 and we're over the 300 mark. So we're going to have a full house at the conference. Now, then I started to write down, I thought, who's coming? So we have REA and Domain from Australia, number 1, number 2. Rightmove and Zoopla from the United Kingdom, number 1, number 2. Celiger, Le Bon Coin from France, number 1, number 2. Idealista and Photocasa from Spain, number 1, number 2. We have Property Finder and Dubizzle from Dubai, number 1 and number 2. Hemnet, Swiss Marketplaces Group, Vend, which is all the Scandinavian players, Aviv Group, out of Inter, Funda. I mean, if you want to be where all the big players are, you want to meet, understand, get to know what's happening in trends in the industry, you've got to be in Madrid, October 15, 16, 17 for the PPW conference. Go to ppweurope25.com. We hope to see you there. Tickets are on sale at the moment. And guess what? They are limited seats available. So I hope you can come.
Yeah, we, I don't know about you guys, but we get a little notification every time somebody signs up and it's quite exciting every morning when you see who's coming. Certainly. Okay. I said today's was a news roundup, but we're not actually going to start with the news. Harvey is in charge every week of saying what we're going to talk about. And Harvey decided that we are going to talk this week, first off, about a piece of analysis that I did. The reason I think is because once it went on LinkedIn, it got quite a lot of comments and I actually got quite a few direct messages and one person being a little bit, I don't know, a bit strange with it. I don't know if you guys saw any of the comments on there, but essentially what I was saying in this analysis was the time to start a challenger real estate portal has come and gone. You cannot start a real estate portal and expect to take on the market leaders, right? You have to do things a little bit differently. Firstly, if you haven't read the article, go and read it on online marketplaces. It's one of those ones that I took, it takes ages to collect all the data and then it's about 650 words at the end of it. Simon, if you were starting a real estate portal now, what would your business model be?
Probably wouldn't be starting one.
That's probably the correct answer, to be fair.
Okay. But for a couple of reasons. One is when you're up against people who've got 20 to 25 years of brand building behind them, okay, and that's brand building with buyers and sellers and renters and so on, but brand building with the industry, okay, it's very hard to replicate that in no matter how much money you throw at it. 2, it's very much a big boy and girl game. I mean, you've got CoStar, you've got the REA Group, you've got Rightmove, you've got Zillow, you've got people who are multi-billion-dollar businesses who are all in on these businesses. They can't afford to fail. But then you've also got to look at the revolution that we're in. Not evolution, but I think revolution. And that's the movement from the traditional way of searching to AI agents, AI-based searching, that there's a high degree of inevitability about it. We just had a great conversation, as I said before, with Remy Fabre from Zephyr about how they're thinking about that problem. And if I'm going to do something different, I'm going to say, how do I place myself between the AI engines, whether it's ChatGPT or Manus or Perplexity or the 100 others that will emerge, and the listings themselves, because people are going to have to look for listings. Now, what are the models that I can shove in between there and capture value? And most of that's probably going to go to some sort of commission capturing type model. So would I be starting a property portal today? Maybe not. Maybe not. And funny, I was chatting yesterday with Malcolm Myers, who's going to be opening the conference for us. And we were chatting about what to call his presentation. Now, I got it here. I just got to bring it up because I can't quite remember it off the top of my head. But I think we ended up calling it Property Portals at the End of an Era or a New Golden Age. And what we're really talking about there is, what does AI mean? And does it mean it's the end of them as we know them? Or will we be seeing some sort of new age where the property portals are still at the center of the conversation?
Okay,
so,
good.
Got to come to the
Good
conference.
teaser. No spoilers. Good teaser.
Nope.
Malcolm's presentations are always really good. I should point out, when we're talking about this, the gist of the article was basically saying, don't start a real estate portal unless you're going to do something different when it comes to business model. The caveat here, and this is something that somebody pointed out in a comment, is that if you're in like a small niche, you probably still can do it. There are some good examples of interesting niches where people can just build a portal and have it be, freemium or subscription based or whatever, and it will still work. I don't know to what extent those get impacted more or less by AI, but that is an important caveat that wasn't in the article that I should talk about. Anyway, I think we'll move on from that because, I don't need any more direct messages on LinkedIn about how I'm wrong.
At the end of the day, though, I think the analysis was really interesting, because when you look at it, challenger brands. I mean, what's interesting is if we go back over many years and you say, who's started late and become a leader? And there are really only a handful of examples, and most of those examples are a decade old.
Yeah, and some of them are things like, I was going to say EMPG, but I mean Dubizzle Group, in somewhere like Egypt, where they came in as late entrants, but they're still a massive company in a market where they didn't really have too many big, powerful companies, and they were able to kind of make themselves big in a small amount of time because they're a big company, because they know what they're doing. Yeah, you get the picture. Harvey, why don't we move on to the news? What news have we got from the last time that we did one of these?
Sure. Let's start with Scout24 in Germany, because there's two stories surrounding them. The first is that Scout24, it's a Frankfurt Stock Exchange listed company. It's going to be introduced onto the DAX index in about 6 days' time, actually. On the 22nd of September, it will officially join the ranks of one of the 40 most powerful publicly owned businesses in Germany, alongside the likes of Audi, BMW, Porsche, Volkswagen, Siemens, all kinds of amazing big name companies. So Scout24 has a market cap of around 8.27 billion at the moment, which is enough to sort of get it into what you'd basically call 40th place out of 40, because there are some absolutely mammoth businesses in Germany. But I think it just goes to show that if you do something right, you keep on going, keep on trucking along. I mean, this is a company that, backed by Germany's market leading portal, Scout24 has just, revenues keep on going up, margins keep on going up. Just a nice bit of good news for the industry, that you're gonna make it all the way to the very top. So good stuff for Scout24. You're nodding your head, Simon. Anything to add?
Only that this is not the first time it's happened. You've got Rightmove's in the FTSE 100, so it's in the top 100 companies in the United Kingdom, the FTSE 100 index, and then you've got the REA Group in Australia is in the ASX 50, which
and
is the 50
CoStar as
largest.
well recently got inducted to the S&P 500, I believe.
There you go. So all in all, it's just the natural evolution. As they get bigger and stronger and more powerful and more valuable, the market's going to pay more attention to them. So yeah, and so I think well done to Scout24.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we're writing up articles and we're sort of writing about the really big names, we always say it's the Rightmoves and the Zillows of the world. And now we have a new entrant onto that list. We can say Scout24 is officially one of the most dominant and strongest performers in the world. So good on them.
Yes.
On the flip side, Scout24, which is the leading portal for Scout24, has been barred from promoting credit reports after a court ruling. So Scout24, this is the portal, was basically potentially misleading some prospective tenants, saying that you need to get a Schufa report and show it to your landlord when you go on a property visit. Turns out that is illegal. It's a certain level of disclosure that should not be asked for by a landlord until a rental agreement is imminent. So Scout24, the portal, has been told that they may no longer advise tenants about what legal documentations and credit reports they should and should not bring to their tenancy viewings. Anything else from this story? They were also investigated for breaches of data privacy practices, interestingly, because Scout24 was allowing users to disclose personal information such as their employment status and their smoking habits. But the German court said that this data collection was inadmissible because the accompanying communications around the required level of voluntary and unambiguous consent were lacking. So, be careful about what you're asking people to disclose on your portal.
Yeah, actually, but it does raise an interesting, maybe question, maybe perspective, is that as these marketplaces become more deeper and more relevant in the transaction process, the volumes of data they're collecting and what they do with it, they've got to be really on top of, especially if you're in Europe. I've been chatting to a few portals about stuff, and the level of GDPR compliance and the regulatory environments are enormous around this. I was having a good old chat on Saturday with someone who's working at a portal, and he said he's literally spending half of his time now just on compliance. And it's a European portal. So you've got to make sure you're on top of that. You've got to make sure what you're offering is legal, is right. You've ticked all the boxes. You've got the right government sign off, and that's and clearly when you're now going to be in the DAX, they're going to look at you closer.
Absolutely,
double-edged sword.
I think probably. I mean, I have next to no knowledge of the German rentals market, other than it's very big and it's quite dominant, more so than in other countries. In other countries, sales dominates. In Germany, I think it's something like 60% is rentals. But I suspect what's happened here is, in practice, landlords absolutely do ask for the credit check when you go and visit a property, even 100%. Though they're not supposed to. And Scout24 are just capitalizing on that. I've heard from a few people that the reason that Scout24 is able to monetize their end users with their, this suite of products that they have that are subscriptions for the end users. So, Meter Plus being the one for renters. The reason they are able to monetize so well with these products is that the rental market is just so incredibly tight in places like Munich and Berlin. And actually, landlords probably do ask for that stuff up front, even though they're not supposed to. Scout24, it looks like, tried to take advantage of that. They were selling these credit reports for, I think, €30 a pop. And, the government, legislation hasn't caught up with reality, perhaps, would be my reading on that. Harvey, you've been covering a lot of products and service updates on real estate portals around the world. Why don't you run us through a couple of them?
Yeah, cool. So this is always one of the most popular reads on our. Whenever I look at the click-through reports on our newsletters. Our product and service roundup always gets a big proportion of clicks. People want to know what companies are doing around the world. So let's add it to the podcast, right? Zillow has added virtual staging to its Zillow Showcase product. So Showcase being like the premium product for agents using Zillow. And it now has a virtual staging product on top of what they call a sky tour, which is an aerial view feature also included on Showcase. So there's a good quote here from Zillow's home trends expert Amanda Pendleton, who says buying a home is an emotional decision as much as a financial one. Too many buyers overlook what could be the perfect home for their family simply because they can't see past the furniture or the design choices. And it raised an interesting question for me, which is we're seeing more and more virtual staging products coming out of the industry, Simon. We're talking about how AI is going to impact the industry. I think it's fair to say that virtual staging and home staging is going to be one of the first mainstream core offerings that is AI driven for major portals. To what extent do you agree with that statement?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if you look at something like Scout24, actually, Scout24, they've done a deal with PropTechs, and you can go on there and look at many of the internal rooms of many of their houses. You can see it in different styles, and they just keep reimagining it in different ways. So that allows you as a buyer to think about a property in a very different way. And a real life example, when I bought a property in Miami area, and the guy who was selling it had no idea of how to stage his house. It was horrible. And the house was on the market for 2 years, and the price literally trickled down. And we made an offer below what he was offering because we saw the trickling down of the price. And look at it now, and it's a totally different looking house. And it just took someone, in this case, my wife, having some time and effort to redesign it and to make it look appealing. So virtual staging is critical in selling a house. And no one's going to be able to afford to continually change the furniture within a house to take lots of different photos. So, and for what is a fundamentally very low cost, and companies like PropTechs offer this service, you can help the consumer, the buyer, immerse themselves into a property. And so that's where I see this stuff as being super valuable and a very logical use of the technology in a very overt way.
Here's what I'd say on it as well. And again, real life example. Yesterday, in fact, I was looking through Rightmove, not to pick on Rightmove, but I was looking through Rightmove at rental listings. And one of the rental listings like really stood out to me. So I clicked on it, right? I clicked through, and it took me quite a long time to see the little small print in the description saying, this is virtually staged. Now, it was actually unfurnished, but in the pictures, it looks beautiful. It looks furnished. It got me to click through. It wasn't until I read to the bottom of I have to click read more in the description, read to the bottom of it, and it says this has been virtually staged. So my point is, I think these, virtual staging is much better when it's native to the portal, not when it's the agents just uploading virtually staged images and the portal not really doing much to flag it because it's not really in their interest to like make a big deal of flagging it. Obviously this we would say this because we're sponsored by PropTechs, right? But I think it does, yeah, it does work a lot better when it's native to the portal rather than the agents doing it, and then uploading the virtual staging to the portal as if it were a regular image.
Yeah, I think this is sort of symbolic of today's society, though, where half the stuff you're looking at on Instagram or whatever is fake. Most of the news articles have got a degree of fakeness around it or incorrectness. Politicians can't open their mouths without giving us fake stuff. So we're living in a world where just not really knowing what's true and what's not true. I think one of the things, though, that is clear when you're buying a house, you usually buy them empty. You don't usually buy them with furniture. So I think there's an apply, and you're hoping that the person who's buying it's got a degree of intelligence, that they realize they're buying a shell and that they are being shown what could be done with a shell, which I think is, and how different is this to when, I remember I sold a house many, many years ago and the real estate agent came in and they removed half my furniture because it was crap, to be honest. They put fake furniture in there, run around, take a whole bunch of photos and then put it all back again. Okay. That's no different. No one that's just making the house look a lot nicer to see. So I don't have a problem in real estate. Certainly nowhere near the level of problems you have when you're looking at fake videos and such being created that is designed to truly manipulate an outcome.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna get way too philosophical here.
No. All right, we'll move on. Harvey, what other things have you covered in the products and services roundup?
So I quite like this one because Le Bon Coin, which is a French horizontal marketplace, says that it now wants to become one of the leading real estate marketplaces in Europe by 2027. And it says it's going to be doing that by leveraging AI. The reason I think this is quite interesting is, firstly, because it's one of the most generic statements you could possibly make. But secondly, there are a couple of businesses that are also trying to do this at the moment. We recently spoke to Christian Halverson, who's going to speak to us at the conference. He's from Vend, and they are going through a verticalization strategy change in the Nordics. And we also have Simon Bray, who spoke to us on the website recently at Kleinanzeigen, which is a horizontal marketplace in Germany that has brought him in specifically because they want to verticalize towards real estate. So we now have a number of leading horizontal marketplaces that are specifically investing into growth of their real estate marketplaces. And I just thought that was quite an interesting trend. And I see Simon nodding along, so I'll hand over to him.
Yeah, no, look, this is old news. Not old news in that Le Bon Coin is doing it, but old news in that you can go back 5 years and OLX Brazil bought Grupo Zap because they want to verticalize. Okay, you can look at the work that's been put in by Trade Me in the New Zealand in verticalization, where they said, no, real estate's really important. We can make a lot of money here. They employed a gentleman away, his name escapes me, from realestate.co.nz to head up their real estate section. They verticalized it. This is, old school approach where I've got an audience, I've got to maximize the value from that audience. I think Le Bon Coin sort of has done it to a degree because they used to be incredibly irrelevant in real estate. And then probably a decade ago, they really got their act together and went heavily after the segment. And I think they gave I think they started with like a freemium type model anyway, which got a lot of real estate agent listings on board, which sort of gave Selliger a big run for their money. And this is just saying, look, we want to just get even smarter in our verticalization of the business. And we better throw the letters A and I into the sentence so that people take us seriously. But I think you will. The good news is now that you've got AI tools emerging that can allow us to have different experiences on websites. Yeah? Ed's looking for a house with a kid. Harvey's looking for a bachelor pad or something. Right? I'm looking for a retirement village. Right? So I'm not looking for a retirement village. But what we're saying is we'll all look for different things and how we should experience a portal shouldn't be generic. It should be tailored for what we want. And the problem is we've all said, yes, we should do that and learn about who's looking. Nowadays, the capacity to do that is becoming stronger and stronger. So I think the presentation to the buyer and the experience of the seller will just improve out of this world as creativity takes off by leveraging AI. A lot of it will miss, but some of it will stick and some will create very good experiences around this. So, yep, let's see what happens. Oh, and by the way, they're coming to the conference, so why don't we chat with them live at the conference about what they're really doing?
Well, I'll make sure to add a question on the Hoover app for them at the end of their talk. Are they on stage, Le Bon Coin, this year?
The French market.
They're not.
Okay. The French market's really hotting up at the moment. You've got so as I understand it, and this might be quite a broad overview, Leboncoin as a horizontal is quite good in the kind of regions, and Seloger is definitely dominant where money gets really made in Ile-de-France and some of the bigger cities. I think it's kind of the same in somewhere like Russia with Avito and Xi'an, right? And you've got this kind of interesting battle where you've got the kind of vertical that is more, has a perception of being more sophisticated, making its money with the kind of upper echelons of real estate, and then the horizontal, perhaps not as sophisticated. Again, this might just be perception, but this is what I've heard, doing well in regions, and both of them trying to kind of encroach on each other's territory, right? And again, it's like the verticalization thing. We see it in a lot of different places. I'm not sure how it plays out, but I think we will see some interesting things in France over the next 6 months to a year.
Yep.
Sounds
And
fun.
it'll spread itself around the world as well. I mean, it's clear, and as Harvey brought up before, Simon Bray now taking over the real estate at Kleinert, and he's going after that real estate segment and really want to say, how do I, I mean, they're answering that age-old question is, how do I leverage the traffic we already have? But they're looking at old iPhones and I don't know, strollers for babies, right? How do I leverage that into a real estate segment? Or can I leverage it into a real estate segment? We're assuming you can, right? Maybe you can't. So let's I think that'll be good to see how that's done and to see if AI provides tools and knowledge and insight into how to do that a lot better than has been done over the last 15 to 20 years.
Speaking of AI, I want to raise another part of the product roundup, which is this is currently in draft, so no one can read this on online marketplaces yet. But we've got a business in the UK called Home Search, which has launched a new AI product called Halo. Obviously, it's got AI as opposed to just A, because that's how you spell things nowadays. It's the UK's first AI native tool designed to help estate and letting agents make their listings more discoverable through major AI engines. Now, we don't have a whole lot of details about this yet, but it seems to me like you plug Halo into your CRM as an agent, and it does something with the data whereby it's going to make it possible for AI engines, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, to basically find specifically agents' contact details and property listings to make getting that first important phone call or email come via the chat GPTs of this world as opposed to directly from a portal. I think we're going to try and get these guys on the podcast because it's worth diving into this. But this looks like it could be a really interesting product, especially if it works.
Yeah, thanks, Harvey. I think so. I was reading this morning, and to my knowledge, at least, this is the first product openly being marketed at agents to say, if you pay us this, we will help you bypass the portals. Maybe there are other products out there that I've missed, but this is the first one that I have seen that, very openly implies, if you pay us X amount of money, although actually I think it's free for the first 6 months.
Free for the first 6 months, and then you charge £80 per month per branch until 2030. It's a frozen price for the first 5 years.
But it's the first product that I've seen that openly implies, if you pay us this, we will do our best to have you kind of lower your reliance on real estate portals and, hopefully have these AI search agents feature your listings instead of those coming from the portal.
Model Prop is another one doing it in the United Kingdom.
I've not seen it. I've not seen any details of what they do or how they do it.
I don't know Model Prop's option,
I understood it was more of a consultancy.
No. They've got a bunch of tools as well behind it. I was talking to the CEO, Mal McCallion, last week. This is clearly an interest. I've just finally found it under Home Search. I typed in actually halo.co.uk and I got a ladder store where you could buy ladders. So now I've discovered that it's actually homesearch.co.uk and their product is called Halo. very interesting. Look, I think you're going to see a lot of this stuff coming up. We know that the traditional SEO, search engine optimization, is sort of a bit of yesterday's. It's still needed to be done, but it's still a bit of yesterday's approach. I think Mike Vanderheiden from Portal Ventures is doing a presentation at the conference on this very topic about how do you prepare your site, your business for agentic optimization. What do they call it?
Apparently, there's a lot of debate in the SEO community at the moment about how to go about naming this new way of doing things.
SEAIEIO.
Yeah, there's some.
I don't know.
No one's really.
That's on McDonald's farm, isn't it?
I think so. But I think this is interesting stuff, and you're going to see a lot of people coming out with these products. They will be now. The question is, will it make a difference? Because we all know how hard SEO is to get to the top of search. We all know that Google keeps changing algorithms. It keeps pushing people down again, up again. We saw it at Matura Group many years ago. So I think AI is even more of a black box. So I'm not convinced that. Well, I'm not 100%. It's something that you've got to think about, but I'm not 100% convinced that someone's really cracked the code on what the AI-driven engines are looking for. Because at the end of the day, AI is learning every millisecond about how to do something a bit different. And I'm actually wondering is if I got ChatGPT and I gave it the right set of instructions on what to do and said, how would you best prepare my website to be at top of an agentic search, it might give me the answer anyway. I don't know. Right? So it'll be interesting to see what it is they actually do.
If you ask ChatGPT about how ChatGPT works 3 times in a row, it explodes.
I'm going to try that afterwards.
That's what I've heard. I only had the guts to do it twice. I couldn't do it the third time.
Yeah. It probably releases your personal information to the market. Stop asking.
You have been warned.
Asking. You've been warned.
All right, Harvey, let's move on. What's last on the product roundup?
Product roundup. Let's have a look. So we have Realtor.com has added another new tier for paying agents. So we now have upgraded profiles, now visually distinguishing the site's professional directory, yada, yada, yada. It's another new tiering system from a portal. The reason I wanted to bring this up was because I wanted to ask Simon about this. When you're developing products and you're working out how to make a new premium and drop people down to you're now one below premium, how do you know what to include and exclude? Because we've got things like badges and we've got things like you've got higher visibility on search results pages and a little bio and a little headshot and stuff like that. These all seem quite soft things. I want to know how you approach the challenge of adding tiers to a product that already exists.
Yeah. The way to think about it is you start with one level. Everyone is the same. And you fill up a page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages. And then you go, how am I going to say to someone, if you'd like to be on the first page, you can pay extra. So you create it. Usually it's a bigger ad. So you're paying for 2 things: size, position, actually 3 things, and maybe a badge or a bell or a whistle, your logo, right? Something, the vanity metric.
In this case, it's called the local expert. For Realtor.com's new tier package, you are now a local expert in a market.
Oh yeah.
For example,
for a certain fee, you're an expert. Okay. So then what happens is though that more and more people buy this thing. So then that just becomes vanilla. Right? If you start off with vanilla, then people buy chocolate. Suddenly the chocolate becomes the new vanilla. So then you just do the bigger ad again. The next biggest ad. Okay, so it's a slightly bigger ad, and it's at the top of the search. And you might hear they call it a local expert, and then that'll start to push everyone down again as you get more and more local experts. Okay. The question is, what do they do to define it? Do they run a course? Do you have to answer questions, or do you just pay a fee? Okay. Now, if I was going to do this, because what's really happening here is the portal is putting their brand behind the agent. It's almost like a little bit of a franchising thing. So you are now classed by company X, in this case Realtor.com, as a local age expert, right? You're a local expert. Well, what am I doing to ensure that that person is the local expert? Or are they just paying me money and I'm calling everyone an expert? And I think if it was me, I would have them jump through a couple of hoops. Tell me a bit about how long have you lived in the area? If you haven't lived, what do you really know? How many houses have you sold in the area? You can probably get access to this in the US via the MLS and so on. You can see where their sales. Because if I'm an agent and I want to move into another suburb where I've never sold anything, I'm going to call myself a local expert because I just want to win a listing. Okay. And I want someone to trust. So I think this is where, what at the core of it all is brand is critical. And I, as a consumer, need to have something I can fall back on that I trust. Okay.
Well, in this case, it's I think Realtor.com is specifically asking people who are NAR members. So they've already got an NAR membership, and then you can become a local expert. But do consumers care about NAR members? So,
how many members are there of the NAR? NAR.
Right? Well,
there
more than a dozen.
More than 1 million. As long as you pay the fee, you do the course. Once you've done the course, you become a member, right? As long as you pay the fee and you're aligned to your MLS or whatever, you're done, right? And keep paying it. Right? Now you can do it. It's not. We're not talking about someone who's a local area expert. You're just saying someone who is a member. Now I can be a member in Orlando, Florida. Can I then become a real estate, a local area expert in, I don't know, Anaheim, California? Just because I happen to pay a bit of money. I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors. Doesn't make me an expert. It just means that I've given Realtor.com some money. Whereas I think because I think what's behind all this is for portals to remain, we talked about this at the very beginning, right? 25 years of being in the industry. Some of them are coming up to 30 years, 1995. Some of them are getting pretty close to kicking off. They've built a very strong brand that consumers trust. Now, if I'm going to if I'm going to allow someone to say you're a local expert, it's like me, the company, is saying this person's a local expert. Therefore, if I keep putting people who are not local experts just because they pay me a bit of money, then what's happening is I'm eroding my brand. Now, the problem is it's millimeter by millimeter by millimeter, but it's a little bit of brand erosion over time. And it's like, oh, they say as a local expert, I used them and they were useless. Okay. Well, I'm not going to trust them again. And that's what's very important, right? So that's why having being very careful how you use these badges in this case is very important. Now, where it works really well is in markets where it's just a total like the Wild West. So you go to a lot of the markets in Latin America or whatever, where you don't, or Southeast Asia, where you don't need to have a license to be an agent. So if I can get some branding behind someone because they've done a course, they've attended sessions, etc., put on by the portal, and the portal is putting their brand behind the agent, okay, then it's like a co-franchising type relationship, right? You carry the Century 21 brand and the local portal brand, for argument's sake. Okay?
I think
that's to give credibility for a market where there is inherent no credibility.
So there's a little bit more to dig into here, because the features that are now available to local expert subscribers include the ability to add service descriptions, question and answer content, and video content. So it seems to me like local experts are basically the only ones who are allowed to sort of market themselves on Realtor.com, thanks to the thing. So if you are interested in trying to create that brand for yourself, there is an advantage to having these services available to you, because, as you say, if you can't just have a massive banner ad anymore, and the only way you can differentiate yourself is by having a video introducing yourself and you walking around a local neighborhood saying, this is a local bar, this is how far the closest train station is or whatever. There is an added benefit to it if you're willing to invest the time and effort it takes to differentiate
there's
yourself as a
value for
marketing
the
expert in the thing.
absolute value for the advertiser. I just think the portal has to make sure that it's just not selling its brand.
Absolutely.
All right. Actually, to come back to your original question, Harvey, how do you know what to include and not include? I think the answer broadly is you hire a hard-nosed former McKinsey person like Simon. They're all these SVPs of strategy. They're all these hard-nosed former consultants who know exactly what to do in this scenario. That's what you do, and you just let them loose. They'll do a good job.
No comment from Simon Baker.
They do stuff a lot.
I think just because you used to work for a management consultant doesn't mean you're smart, right? Okay. It means that you're very good at analysis, very good at presenting stuff, but it doesn't mean you are truly in touch with what the market needs or wants or values. Okay. And the trade-off around all of this is that it's very easy to create this sort of stepping stone, a standard ad, a premium, super premium, super premium, super luxury premium, so on. Right? That's easy. But as you do that, the consumer's experience degrades. Because I'm asking a question and you're putting ads in front of me that aren't answering my question. So you're making it harder for me to get to the actual answer that I want. So there is a trade-off around all of this. Okay. And there are many, many, many businesses out there built by management consultants that have failed. Okay. Right. And I've been involved in some, not because I failed them, just for clarity's sake, but I've seen that occur. And it's because sometimes you can overthink it, overanalyze it, and being not in touch with what the consumer really wants.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, we'll leave it there. I don't think there are any more product roundups. I think we've scraped the barrel on that one. Harvey, Simon, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.